Right, just welcome everybody, those in attendance today and those online, to our council meeting, 7th of July 2026. So I'll now ask everyone to stand for the affirmation. I'll just read the affirmation. We recognise the traditional owners of the land. We are inspired by the early pioneers and by those who gave their lives for our country. We now ask God's blessing on our deliberations and on our commitment to build a better lifestyle and environment. This council meeting is being recorded and live streamed to council's YouTube channel. The recording will also be made available on council's website. Whilst all care has been taken to ensure that your privacy is maintained, please be aware that your presence may be recorded. So go to item 1, apologies and leaves of absence. Do we have any apologies? No. Go to item 2, confirmation of minutes for the council meeting held on Tuesday the 23rd of June 2026.
Yes, Mayor, I am happy to recommend that the minutes listed, copies of which have been circulated, be confirmed and adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Hines. Someone to second that?
Yep, second that.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. All in favour? Okay, they're carried. Are there any matters rising from the minutes? No matters. Any presentations or awards? Item 5, presentation of petitions and joint letters. There are none. We'll go to item 6, disclosures of a conflict of interest at a council meeting. So does anyone have a conflict of interest that they wish to declare?
Yeah, 14.1.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Anyone else have any disclosures of conflict of interest? No. We'll go to item 7, informal meetings of councillors. So we have a resolution there.
Yes, I move that the minutes from the informal meetings be accepted, Mayor.
Okay, so we have someone to second that.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. All in favour? That's carried. Okay, item 8, do we have any items to be brought forward? No items to be brought forward. We'll go to item 9, consideration of reports of officers. 9.1, housing skills and education, build it up. So 9.1.1, planning permit amendment 98 to 100 Main Street, Great Western. The purpose of this is to make a decision on planning permit application for the amendment of an existing permit for the use and development of land for residential hotel alterations. So we've had a lot of discussions about this and had lots of questions asked and lots of questions given to us, and yeah, we have a recommendation there. So I was just wondering if anyone would like to move a recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that council issues a notice of decision to amend planning permit 005.2000000106.001-2, subject to the conditions contained in the attached planning officer's report.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberg. Would anyone like to second that recommendation?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. So, Councillor Greenberg, would you like to address the council on the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you said, the council has had extensive discussions about this planning application or amendment. As far as I'm aware, there are no planning rules or regulations that prevents this planning permit going ahead. There's been extensive conversations with regards to the issues raised by objectors, particularly to do with car parking. However, I feel that, like Great Western being a fairly small town, that there is adequate car parking in the streets in the area. Quite clearly, the street parking, even though it is counted as part of the application, is still available to all residents and visitors and anybody using the streets, and that I think that while there are disabled car parks allocated within the establishment itself and also in the council facility down the road for people who are unable to walk, the other patrons, wherever they're attending, be it the post office, the cafe, the sports ground, etc., are capable of walking that extra distance. The application has been presented to all of the different authorities which we're required to get permission from, and there's been no issues coming towards council from those. So I believe that the development is beneficial to the future of Great Western as a tourist town, and so I support the motion to grant the permit.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. So, Councillor Blake, would you like to address the council on the motion?
Yeah, I second what Councillor Greenberg just said. I think it's pretty important for the area. I'd go with it, and we just wanted to get it resolved and moved on as quick as we can now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. So, any councillor like to speak against the motion?
Sorry. Yes, Mayor, I'd like to speak against the motion. My role is to represent the community and be the voice for them to the feedback that's been presented to me. So on that basis, I oppose the motion, and the proposed amendments would result in unacceptable parking, traffic, access and amenity or neighbourhood character impacts, to sum it up.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Any councillor like to speak for the motion? Any other councillor like to speak against the motion?
I'm also going to speak against the motion for similar reasons to Councillor Hyde. Our responsibility is to our community, and what we're hearing is that the community doesn't want these changes. Like, although the changes reduce the number of rooms almost by half, it's also changing the character of the development. Previously, entry and exit was via a commercial side road. Now it's going to be via a residential area. And also, too, the parking will be on the residential side of the development. Previously, there would be motel rooms with closed windows, etc. So I think it raises a noise aspect. And the parking spots, there's only 17 car parks on site. The formula they use for car parks says there should be 38, and there's only going to be 17. There will be 10 off-site. But I just think that's putting an unacceptable burden on the community and the character of the area.
Thank you, Councillor Probst. Any other councillor like to speak for or against the motion? Okay, so I'll now ask, no other councillor wish to speak. I'll ask Councillor Greenberg if you'd like to sum up.
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate that while we as councillors are representing our community, we are also the planning authority for these sorts of matters, and therefore I think legally we are obliged to follow the recommendations of officers when they've considered all of the implications in terms of the planning scheme and planning law. Therefore, while I am empathetic to the issues raised by objectors, I believe according to planning regulations this permit does meet all those requirements. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Okay, I now ask for a show of hands. So those that are in favour of the recommendation. Okay, and against? All right, so that
division, please.
Yep. Councillor Hyde has called for division, so just show of hands again for Councillor Greenberger, Councillor Blake, Councillor Heslop and Councillor Emerson. Against? Councillor Probes and Councillor Hyde. Okay, so that's carried. So now go to item 9.2, Agriculture, Economy and Tourism, Business Buzz. 9.2.1, Planning Permit 99 Tawny Road and 4,799 Sunraysia Highway, Karapuri West. This is to make a decision on a permit application. Once again, this is a lot of conversation around this one as well. I'm just asking someone if they'd like to make a recommendation.
I recommend that Council issues a notice of decision to grant a permit subject to the conditions outlined in the attached Planning Officer's report.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. Somebody to second that recommendation? Okay, so if nobody seconds the recommendation, it means it lapses. So we have a mover. I'm just asking somebody if they'd like to second that.
For the purposes of debating the motion, I'll second the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Right, thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Councillor Probes, would you like to address the Council on the motion?
The festival has been conducted for quite a few years in the local area, and I know a lot of the objection to it from the people surrounding the festival site is to do with the noise, the fire safety issues. I think the permit conditions cover those sort of things. What concerns me is like the local people who have to put up with the noise. It does concern me about their mental health and the stress it causes them, not just for the weekend it's on, but for the period building up to it. Balancing that against the businesses who support it, the local community who enjoy having the festival. It's a really hard balance to get, but I think overall the benefit to the community, it is a benefit to the community. It does concern me that, you know, the people who don't live nearby, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, and so the poor people who do live nearby are the ones left, you know, with the noise and dealing with the festival goers. But on a balance of pros and cons, I'm in support of the festival proceeding.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. So, Councillor Greenberg, would you like to address the Council on the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was the councillor that called this permit in. Our tipping point for council to consider a planning permit is 6 objections. In this particular case, there were only 4 objections. However, I believe that the objections that were submitted by particularly the neighbours were of such a serious nature that we really did need to revisit this permit. Last year, when we were only fairly new as councillors, it came up, and at that time I remember saying that it was a very, very challenging situation to try and address as a council, and certainly it is just as difficult and painful this time around. The difficulty is, and I know one of the objectors did say to me, that council has passed this every year because of the economic impact. And so I wanted to fully investigate as a council what those comments meant. The other issue that I wanted to fully follow through was the issues that related to festival goers that were police matters. So over the briefing period, we've had a police officer come and address council about those matters, and the police officer did report to council that there were a number of police reports after the last festival and that they were investigated by the police. However, there were no charges laid due to the fact that the particular individuals involved were unable to be identified. The other matter that we wanted to discuss with the police was the illegal behaviour of festival goers, and again the police officer did indicate that from their perspective, while there were a number of incidents, from their perspective it wasn't a huge issue. So I guess those matters need to be weighed up against the fact that music festivals are a sort of a modern young person cultural phenomenon, and the fact that this festival attracts 2,000 young people from all around Victoria, you know, it would seem to me to be a shame for this council to say that we don't accept that that is a legitimate way for young people to enjoy a weekend away in our beautiful LGA. The other point that was made was that this festival brings in an enormous amount of money into the local economy, and so I requested that council officers provide some data. Council has a particular methodology called a REM plan data, which uses it's a computer-generated data system which generates a value for the estimated income that a festival can generate. We use it when we're assessing events, etc., all around the municipality, and our REM plan data suggests that this festival generates $2,485,750 into the local economy, which again is a figure that we can't really afford to ignore. I mentioned 4 objections. We also received 23 letters of support, mostly, or all of them I think, from businesses that do demonstrate to us that they actually are engaged by the festival people and that they are using local services. Of great concern, though, is the well-being of the neighbours and the impact of the festival on them. However, I think ultimately we all have to take responsibility for our own well-being, and that, you know, I know it's been said that people can't leave the area for the weekend. They've, you know, got various reasons why they can't. However, I think in the end that when you weigh up all of these matters, that I don't think as a planning authority, when the festival director or managers meet all of the very many planning requirements that we put in place for them, they've done so in the past. The feedback from officers are that those requirements are met, that we really do have grounds on which to refuse the permit.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. So any councillor like to speak against the recommendation? Any other councillor like to speak for the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be speaking against the motion, as I have on previous occasions. To make it very simple, I think these festivals are drug-infested opportunities for people to pour upon our communities things that aren't legally right. So for that reason I object to it. but to address the council concerns in regard to noise, bad behaviour, fire danger. I don't accept a lot of the authorities' recommendations. I don't accept the police's discussion in regard to they don't have any problem with it, because I know they do, and we've had a number of people admitted to hospital through overdoses of drugs, which the police don't admit to, obviously. I've had 20 years' experience in that. So to put it pretty simply, I don't think the benefits of this festival outweigh the dangers and our responsibilities to be voting against the motion. So I will be voting against the motion. I have some serious doubts, and I've had them for many years sitting around this council table, in regards to how we assess our financial benefits through the REM plan system. Basically, I believe it's a bit of a guess, and I don't believe the guess in this instance. I haven't seen anybody in my time in council over at St Arnaud becoming millionaires out of this, other than perhaps the people that are running them. So I don't see the economical benefit to it, even though the REM plan system might say that it is. Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Emerson. Would any other councillor like to speak for or against the motion? So I'll just get you in your microphone. Okay, so if no other councillors would like to speak for or against the motion, I'll ask Councillor Prost, would you like to sum up?
Just that in the planning permit we have conditions there about fire safety, about noise, about security, and those conditions meet the requirements of the planning rules. My main concern about the festival is the noise and the inconvenience to the residents, but other than that, the festival meets the requirements, and so that's why I'm supporting the festival.
Okay, so if no other councillor wishes to speak, I'll put that to the vote. So those in favour? And against? Okay, so that's carried. We'll now go to item 9.3, infrastructure, finance and corporate services. Do it well. 9.3.1, proposed road naming St Arnaud. And this is to consider undertaking the process to name 3 roads in St Arnaud and surrounds. So we have a recommendation there, if someone would like to use the recommendation.
Sorry, Mayor, I might call notice that I've
got... Oh, that's fine. All right. Thank you, Trenton.
Happy to proceed?
Yep.
Okay. I recommend that council gives public notice of its intention to 1. Name the following unnamed roads. A. Unnamed Road 1 that runs north to south between Hopetoun Street and unnamed Road 2, St Arnaud, as Bennett Lane. B. Unnamed Road 2 that runs west to east between Butcher and Clive Streets, St Arnaud, as Picklethall, thank you, Lane. 2. Rename the following named road. Named road, currently named Horwell Lane, that runs north to south between Maryborough and St Arnaud Road, and Grants Road, Nat Yallock. I'm on a roll today. Thank you, Councillor Blake. English is first language. Rename as Amos, AMOS Road. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Hyde. Would someone like to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Probe. Councillor Hyde, would you like to address the council on the motion?
Yes, we did discuss and the opportunity for the community to provide feedback to council on their suggestions was given, and there is a very strict protocol in which council must follow. However, there was 3 suggestions provided. We have 3 unnamed roads, well, 2 unnamed and 1 to be renamed, so voila.
Councillor Probst. Right, any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Councillor wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Hyde, did you wish to sum up?
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. We'll just wait for Trenton to come back in. Okay, go to item 10. There's no notices of motion or rescission. Go to item 11, reports from councillors and committees. Might go around the table. So I'll start with Councillor Probst.
Only 2 weeks since the last meeting, so I'm not going to steal Murray Emerson's thunder this time. Main thing, I'm looking forward to the newly formed Sanana Theatre Company having their opening night on Thursday night for the hanging of Andrew Vare, and their advertising for it has given a lot of background on the story and what led up to the events of the last man from Sanana to be hanged, and I'm really looking forward to opening night and having a meal at our newly opened Vine and Lamb before I go. It's lovely to see some activity happening locally.
Sounds lovely. Councillor Emerson?
It's only been 2 weeks since the last report.
Yeah, fair enough, yep. Councillor Hyde?
Sure. Okay, speaking of activity, opening weekend for Glow. Kicked to start the school holidays, and we were very lucky to have Fire Performer out there, and of course one of our traditional Gunditjmara men open the ceremony for us, along with many other festivities. It's been really good to see a lot of the events that have been happening, and a lot of the businesses have been putting on additional events and extending their program to meet the demand. So it's really positive to hear that feedback. I also met with a local member of the Halls Gap Golf Club in regards to their short and long-term plans out there at the Halls Gap Golf Club. For those of you who aren't aware, there is a beautiful golf range 3 kilometres outside of Halls Gap, and we sat down and had a discussion. Done several meetings online and in person in regards to, of course, transmission lines, renewable energy, and all the association regarding that. That's an ongoing, that consumed a bit of my time over the last few weeks. And a couple of nights ago, I had the pleasure of being involved in the Multicultural Film Festival, which showcased 10 of the winners from the 767 entries. And Halls Gap was the first location across Victoria to showcase these winning films, and it will end in Fed Square in November. So if that is of interest and you feel like you've missed out, you haven't. Our wonderful multicultural officer has secured St Arnaud to also host these films on the 18th of September. So I encourage everyone to get along and have a look for themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Blake?
I just wish that I had that much time that I could go and lay around on beanbags. Nothing since the last time really, apart from the fact that after Ford moving out of town, I just went and done a quick run around some small businesses just to get a welfare check and see how they're all travelling and see how they're going, and they really do appreciate when you call in just to see how they're going, you know. That's about it.
Councillor Grampians?
Yes, not much, of course, just in the 2 weeks, but I did want to mention that I attended the Grampians Wimmera Tourism Volunteers Recognition Day up at the Stick Shed in Matoa. We had a carload of volunteers from our visitors information centres, both, from Halls Gap, Stawell and St Arnaud that attended that day. It was amazing to see the stick shed. If you haven't seen the stick shed, it is an absolutely amazing structure, and so that was terrific to go and see that. And also want to add my thanks to our very important volunteers who help us out with our tourism visitor experience, both paid and also our volunteers. They do a really valuable job for us in the community. I also attended the Multicultural Film Festival along with Justine, and I think the other thing I'd mention is that we were very privileged to actually have the film competition was made by the Victorian Multicultural Commission, and we had the chairperson of that, director of that commission, attend our launch of the film festival in Halls Gap, and we were very privileged to have him attend, and he opened up his the festival's tourism tour around Victoria, which was terrific. And then this week, of course, is NAIDOC week. I attended Goolam, the new facility up in Horsham yesterday morning. Again, a beautiful building that's been designed and constructed to reflect First Nations culture. And then they had a smoking ceremony. They've got a group of young kids now doing traditional dancing, and it was just lovely to have a tour of that facility. There's various other NAIDOC week events on this week, a very important celebration of First Nations people's achievements, and I would encourage everyone to go to take part in those events coming up this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about our trip to Canberra. So CEO and I went to Canberra for a week as part of a conference, and also did a lot of networking and met a few MPs and tried to get our stance out there and do some advocacy work. And one of the people that myself, along with Pyrenees and Central Goldfields Shire, met Mark Darragh, who is the National Water Grid, Water Infrastructure and Investment Division. And look, we had an hour-long conversation with him, and the main reason we spoke to him was to advocate for the Southern Wimmera and North East Pyrenees pipeline. And it was a really interesting conversation. You hear lots about meeting federal MPs and branch heads, just what is needed from state government and local government to help get these projects up and running. And he's sort of saying that it would be really good if we could get some state commitment to this project first, before federal government would look at investing. He was really interested in the work that we've done to date. We've got the facts, the figures, we've got all the work together. So our ask at the moment is $5 million to undertake essential pre-construction works, including detailed design, geotechnical investigation, ground conditional assessment, environmental impact assessments, customer and stakeholder consultation, update on project costing and business case based on assessments, and detailed design. So we have done the initial work. So we've done a feasibility study and business case and Aboriginal waterways assessment, and he was really impressed with the amount of work that we have already done. And they're able to give you little pointers and little bits of information that you need to be able to put the whole pie together so you can advocate more strongly. And I think seeing federal, even though we might need state funding, and initially, at least we've spoken to the federal side of things, they know what the project's about, they're happy with the work that we've done in the pipeline to start off with, and obviously they see it as a really important project for our Shire, and we sort of just said things like, the last couple of years we've been in drought, water insecurity is a big thing for farmers, for little areas where there's population that don't have a good supply of water. So this would open up supply to townships as well as the farming sector, and like I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, and I'm sure they do as well, the federal government, but it's just getting our project up and getting it there so that we're sort of hopefully first and forefront in their mind when they allocate funding towards these projects. And also noticed that there was something in the Straw Times News as well with the Victorian Farmers Federation is calling on both the federal and Victorian governments to urgently commit $5 million to progress the Southern Wimmera and North East Pyrenees water supply project, warning regional communities cannot afford further delays to critical drought resilience infrastructure. So there's definitely a need out there, and we're all working together in this space, and hopefully we can get some form of commitment. It'd be great if we get an election commitment from somebody in the state government to help progress this project forward. So we've done our advocacy prospectus, which is a document that I took to Canberra with us, and just a big shout out to all of us and all of our staff for putting this together. As everyone I took it to were just so impressed with the amount of work that we have gone into to get this together. The data, the projects, there's challenges, it says everything about our shire, what our strategy advantages are, why we're better placed in some places in some ways than other shires, what our vision is. I was talking to some councillors and mayors who, have a lot bigger budget than us, and they were so in awe of what we've done. And it was so great to be able to get this out to MPs, talking to MP, and to give them a little bit of a takeaway so that they've got something that they can read and remember us by, and have a bit of a read and get their head around what Northern Grampians Shire asked them. So another thing we also did with every sort of MP that we spoke to is about financial sustainability, and which is a huge thing for all regional rural areas. Financial sustainability is key for all councils, but particularly relevant to 27 small rural councils that have been determined to be unsustainable, which is obviously us. And what we're asking is for state government to not have any contributions required for grants funding, which would mean that often when you apply for a grant, you need to be able to co-contribute. So it sort of does inhibit what you can apply for, or what you can where you might sort of try and get your funding, because if you have to co-contribute, then you think, well, where are we going to find that money co-contribute to get some funding? Whereas if they enabled all grants to be put out there with no contribution, then I suppose you apply for grants given on what your need is, and then they would still allocate the same amount of money, but they would allocate it to the local councils without having, then they wouldn't have to require to co-contribution, to have any co-contribution. So they got the ask. Whether they listen or not, I'm not sure, but it just, one of the things that really does inhibit small councils from applying for grants is having that dollar amount of money that they have to find. If they do get the grant, then they have to be able to find money to co-contribute, and it can sometimes be really, really difficult for small rural councils. So I did get to meet Sam Mostyn and had a bit of a chat to her, and she actually did bring up when the fires were on and just offered her support, and I just sort of reintegrated where we're at with the fires and had a bit of a chat to her about that, so that was lovely. I did get to have a handshake and met a lot of MPs and just tried to put our point forward, Anthony Albanese. I gave him an advocacy prospectus and just let him know where we were, where I was from, Northern Grampians Shire, and just hopefully you'll have a read of it. So we met Christy McBain, which was lovely, and we had 20 minutes with her, and we had some conversations once again around financial sustainability. Would you like to add anything to when we met Christy McBain?
Yes.
Would you like to add anything?
Oh, look, Christy McBain is the Minister of Regional Development and a local government, and all councils have the issue of getting their federal assistance grants in that sort of period between financial years, and she felt that, and therefore there are budget adjustment issues, every council's had it, she semi-committed or committed to a fixed date so that we all know exactly when we're going to get the money. So that was pleasing to hear. We also talked about the Northwest 9, which is a coalition of 9 councils from Swan Hill down to Stawell, basically advocating to be prepared for the massive potential renewables and mining developments that are going to happen in this region. So she was very keen to hear about that. And we also talked to Minister Bowen, the Minister of Energy and Climate Change, and he was particularly interested and will actually ask his Energy Commissioner to contact Council. So it was all in all a very successful trip, Mayor. Thank you.
We also met Jana Stewart in similar conversations, yep. But it was great. We worked together with other councils, so it wasn't just us being in the meetings. We often had other councils from around the area where there was something that was particular to them. We sort of invited them along, or they invited us along, so it was good networking. And a very, very busy week. Came home very exhausted, but yeah, we certainly worked hard and made sure that our voice was heard. So that's it for me, and I now have a resolution that the reports be received.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to move that the reports be received.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. All in favour? That's carried. We have no urgent business. So item 13, public question time. We have no public question time. So we now, item 14, closure of meeting pursuant to section 66(2)A of the Local Government Act. We have an item in closed council. So item 14.1, community care review, and Councillor Blake has a conflict on this. So we just have a recommendation that we go into closed council to consider the item.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the meeting be closed to consider the item listed pursuant to section 66 of the Local Government Act 2020, as it deals with confidential information as detailed in section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Someone just second that.
Happy to second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. So we'll now go into closed council. So we'll just have to ask the audience to leave. Sorry.
council in closed council agreed that item 14.1 resolutions are to remain confidential until staff are informed.
There be no further business. I will now declare the meeting closed at 1:21.